Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Gretchen O'Hara. I'm the Vice President of our AI and Sustainability Strategy here at Microsoft. And I'm so excited to be talking to an incredible set of individuals that are doing some incredible things around the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And so would love to have that opportunity to talk a little bit more and learn a little bit more for all of us listeners here. So let's just get right to it. Let's start with like something really easy for you guys. Let's start about what goal you all chose, what was your solution, and what kind of gave you that inspiration to pick what you were working on?
Okay, so I can go first. My name is Sophie Lee, and I'm from San Francisco. And the goal I chose to work on with my partner was goal number 6, which is clean water and sanitation. And originally, we were inspired to pick this goal because it affects such a huge amount of people. I believe it's about 2.2 billion people. And we also learned that unsafe water kills more people than disasters and conflict every year, which is an insane statistic. And so also just in general, water is it's life. You can't live without water, and it's a human right. And so we really wanted to do something that addressed specifically unsafe drinking water because such a huge amount of deaths are caused by contaminated water. And so our solution was providing and distributing water filtering straws and water filters to communities in need. And these straws, we looked at some already existing water filtering straws, but ideally we would have prototyped and created our own straws. But some of the already existing ones filter about 99% of bacteria and parasites and also have a 3 to 5 year lifespan. So the technology already exists. And so we hoped that our solution could drastically change the lives of many people who are in need of clean water.
Incredible. Clara?
Hi, I'm Clara, and I'm with Gabriela on this project. So basically, over the span of 2 weeks, we learned about the SDGs, and we both took the biggest interest in Goal 13, which is climate action. And throughout our process, we did have doubts about focusing on this goal since it involves so many issues in just this one goal. But at the same time, we saw that as a great opportunity to work on and research further, not just our goal, but on SDGs in general. So our solution was an app that would promote and support sustainable living through tracking everyday tasks like means of transportation, shopping, cooking, and overall consumption.
Incredible. And so, Gabriela, as part of this project, what's been your favorite part of the design process in creating your solution?
Hi, so personally, I enjoyed the research process the most because it truly gave me and my partner the insight we needed to come up with such a comprehensive and educated solution. This portion of the design process, furthermore, allowed us to understand the complexity of the problem and helped us determine which activities we should pursue. In fact, it was during this stage when we realized that encouraging individuals to change seemingly unimportant aspects of their life was the way to create long-term change and solve such an ambitious goal.
Incredible. Any other favorites that you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, for me, my favorite part of it was the ideate step. And for us, that meant finding a solution that was attainable because the goal of just providing clean water for everyone is such a large goal. And I also really enjoyed the testing stage. And although we couldn't really test an actual like prototype, we sort of started to think about what challenges our solution might face. And for us, that meant, thinking about cost and thinking about distribution. And so we ended up changing our solution a little bit from water filtering straws only to also providing water filters for larger communities and areas like schools. And just overall, the design process as a whole was super fun. And I really liked seeing how our idea developed over the course of designing.
That's incredible. I mean, you sort of started to talk about this, but as you each went through this process of creating the solutions, what did you see as the biggest challenge that you had all in trying to find the solution with such a big goal? I mean, all of your descriptions, such big goals. Where did you sort of you see that sort of the biggest challenge you had to overcome?
One of our biggest issues was finding a specific aspect of climate actions that we wanted to focus on. Nevertheless, we realized through our design process that a rise in popularity in sustainability clothes could be used to create awareness to the problem and get teenagers involved.
What about the rest? What did you guys see as your biggest challenge?
Yeah, like I said before, we really wanted to find a solution that felt attainable to us. We didn't really want to focus on like a larger or more broad like policy. We wanted to do something that could have like real significant change. And so by thinking about like our solution on a smaller scale, we were able to like take this extremely ambitious goal and make it more realistically achievable.
I love that. Yeah. Taking sort of those big challenge and starting to make it something that you can, put some applicability to it, which is incredible. So, Clara and Gabriela, have a question for you. Just based on your solution, you all chose to, really approach a solution towards environmental centric goals. And so, why do you think the environmental dimension is so important as a whole in achieving the UN's SDGs?
It's so important to note that the environment provides direct sources of food and supply services that support human health, incomes, employment, opportunities, and poverty. So while researching, we noticed that more than half of the SDGs have an environmental focus or just sustainability concerns. And while 86 of the 169 targets directly concern the environment, so this means that no goal can progress without providing attention to the environmental dimension.
It makes a ton of sense. I love the thought process around the impact that you're making. Sophie, not only does clean water and sanitation have, hygienic effects on the population, but also has development effects. And I think you mentioned a little bit about that. What do you see your solution as creating in the development in places where water is just a precious resource?
Yeah, so I think like a big issue itself in developing countries is health. And so obviously by providing clean water, we are improving the health of people in developing countries. But water is also essential to poverty reduction and food security and just peace and human rights, and also has an impact on the environment and education. So like I think Gabriela was sort of talking about, it was everything is interconnected. And so by providing these straws and providing clean water, we would also be impacting things like poverty and education. And so for poverty, if you don't have to worry about surviving on a day-to-day basis and how you're going to live, how you're going to find clean water, you can focus more on working or providing for your family. And same for education. If, like I talked about, providing water filters in schools, if students are there's obviously huge impacts on your brain if you don't have access to clean water. And so by providing clean water, students would be able to focus more in school and get a better education. And so by providing access to clean water, we would be able to improve the health of people in developing countries, which would allow them to focus more on things like work and education.
I love that. I think, one of the things I'm learning from all of the work that you've done is the highlight of the connected ecosystem, and that while addressing each of these individual goals is super important, the impact and the effect that they're having across. And I think you're doing an incredible job highlighting that for the audience. So, Clara, Gabriela, one for you. How does your solution come across to address environmental needs in the developing and developed countries?
Our app specifically targets developed countries because it requires access to smartphones and the internet. One of our challenges was that we are aware that I believe only about 35% of the population in developing countries have access to the internet, but we're hopeful that through participation of regular civilians like us, governments across the globe, including those of developing countries, will implement laws such as carbon taxes that will help reduce the carbon emissions and will help combat against climate change.
Anything to add there from anyone on that? Well, that's great. So let me, I'm just so inspired by the work that you've done. I love this program and the commitment to the projects that you've worked through. And so maybe just for the audience, one kind of closing question. What would you give advice to everyone who wants to go down the path that you've done in terms of these projects to help address and solve the UN's SDG goals? What sort of one piece of advice would you give people who want to sort of walk in your footsteps and do this next? And we'll
Yeah,
just yeah.
I think just people need to realize that you don't need to have any experience like with anything surrounding the SDGs. I mean, I came into this program like not knowing anything about the SDGs, and by the end of it, I was really familiar with them and could create a solution. And I think it's really not about having experience like with leadership or making policies. Like I said, you can choose a solution that is something you yourself can do. And I think that's really important for people because they can know that they really can make a difference.
Fantastic. What about the rest of you guys?
I like Sophie said, I think that a lot of people might think that you need to know about the SDGs or have some previous knowledge about it. But like her, I did not know anything about them before I started the program. And I feel like most people need to realize that you don't have to come up with this crazy solution to make an impact. It's the small changes that matter. It's patience and small changes that create the biggest and largest impacts.
I love it. Any last thoughts?
I just want to add that, like, especially with the internet now, we have adequate resources to be educated on issues such as, SDGs. So I think it's really important to stay updated and find topics that you're really passionate about, because those are the ones that you're going to work the hardest on.
It's great advice from three incredible leaders, learning, getting educated, taking big tasks and breaking them down into things that can be solvable and make a real impact. So congratulations to all three of you. Incredible work, very inspirational to all of us. And the advice, I think, is for everyone listening, which is take the time to learn. You can make a difference. And no matter how big that goal might seem, break that down into something that you can take in terms of little steps to get started, because everyone can make a difference. Thanks so much for all of you joining today. Really appreciate you sharing your insights with the panel, and congratulations again.